let's start with a brief silent meditation as usual.
Try my best to articulate, because today I guess the words that come, it's almost like I felt like I'm coming home. And that's an interesting thing to experience simultaneously with the experience of there's no coming and going at the same time. So the experience of coming and going, but also somewhere mixed into that, the sense that there is no coming and going as well. And then mixed into that as well, the question of how long have I been gone? Where did I go? How long have I been coming back? When did I go? Did I go anywhere? And then there's like this very subtle whisper of, like I said, and you said to me, we were talking about this earlier, but I sense it myself. You never went anywhere. You never go anywhere. So if I know that, if there's a part of me that knows that, then why is there this experience of suffering in the coming and the going, the pain of the separation? And then it's almost like, I'm doing my best to express this all. It's almost like experiencing, so I said the pain of separation, but there's the pain of a return as well, but then realizing at the same time that it's not actually pain, or it's the same, as you say often, it's the same as bliss or ecstasy or joy or peace. It's like the all the emotions blend into one, and it's just pure emotion. And the coming and the going and the pain and the joy, it all just blends into one. And I would think that that would be confusing, but it's not, because there's no more question involved. don't need to understand it. I don't even know if I'm making any sense, and I don't really care. I don't know that there's a question or...
So you say there's a sense of coming to and wondering, where was I and how long was I there? And a sense of coming to as coming home. I'm quite sure everybody here relates to this. There's a sense of coming and going, and a sense of finding and losing. And it can be quite painful, you know. There's a period even where it's so dramatic, it's almost like whiplash. In one moment, peace, even bliss. In the next moment, terrible suffering, frustration, sadness, anger. And it's a tricky business because for so much of the time, being inside of the suffering, identified as the sufferer, we don't really know we're in it. It seems so real. But then when we pop back up, it's almost like a dream. I think everybody's had the experience of driving down the highway, and all of a sudden, you come back into the body, you know? And you wonder, who's been driving the last 20 miles? I took such and such an exit. Who was driving? It can be even a little bit startling, yes. Or everybody also knows that on a Saturday, you drive to work just out of habit. So much automation. These are fairly innocuous experiences that point to something that can be so painful. Each one of us is present in this moment. And also simultaneously, just by probability, each one will be not here in some pattern of thought. And the emotions in the body are tied to this, the heart rate and the breath, sense of anxiety. There can be a celebration for a nostalgic memory or a great anticipation of something good to come. Or it could be dread of the day ahead, something that you don't want to deal with, or some resentment for something that happened last week or 10 years ago. Meaning, not now. Lost in thought. And the whole world seems to accommodate. Meaning, when we're lost in a thought, the world looks to us the way it looks in the narrative of the patterns of thought. Totally like what it's like when you slept last night and you dreamt. And as you dreamt, in the mind of sleeper, in your mind, a dream character was born, called itself by your name, imposter. And as the character is born, so too is the world it occupies. And the entire backstory. Maybe on some rare occasions, the dream character has come to life confused about how it got there, who it is. Huh? Where did I come from? Where did all of this come from? Huh? Has it happened to anybody? Not to me. And yet, this is the same characteristic of being lost in thought. Everything makes sense within the confines of the narrative of mind, the conditioned mind rooted in past, focused on past, superimposing past on now, and because of that, looping. And we don't know. Because it all seems so real. The whole thing has this element of confirmation bias, or it's like an ink blot test, a Rorschach test. Are you familiar? So they say in this Rorschach or ink blot test that what you see reveals the psyche of the perceiver. What if the world is just like this? And one of the really confounding parts of this Maya is that we don't know. We don't know we're lost. We don't know we're looping in a waking dream of conditioned, egoic confirmation bias. We don't know that we make it what it is, and we perceive that it's doing to us, often against us even. And then we have these moments where we wake up. You feel like, I've come home. And here's the strange thing about it too, is that when you're in it, it seems so real. And there's real aggravation for those who are not in it. It seems crazy. In our craziness, in the insanity of our conditioning, the ones who are free of that seem insane. In fact, in this whiplash, when we're in the posture of sufferer, the one who was blissful the day before seems like, oh my gosh, I was so ungrounded, so untethered, so delusional. Truly, I was insane. You see, but the blissful one looks back on the sufferer and the suffering and thinks, this is insane. How could I have thought that was real? And then just bouncing back and forth. There is this period of a transition where this will continue to happen. We spoke about it earlier today. This will continue. You'll forget again. This is the power of force of Maya. And you are not strong enough to resist it. And so you will get swept away by it again and again. And your only hope is to pay close attention. Even that, with a real intention to remember, you will forget. You see, but I share this not as some indictment, but you can be easier on yourself when you forget. It's going to happen. You know how to know the real trick? Huh? When you come back to, laugh. Laugh. Oh my gosh, Maya, you've duped me again. The goddess magician. How have I fallen for it over and over and over again? I bow to you, giggling, laughing, just like a magician pulling a rabbit out of the hat. This is the best medicine. And to know you will fool me again. And I bow to you. You remove the frustration, the anger, the self-criticism. And then once you do that, once you pull that pin out of the weave, it will slowly unravel. It's such a tricky business. You see, because we talked about this, I think, on Wednesday. We have to try, we have to exert a lot of effort. We have to demonstrate our own sincerity for our own selves through our effort. And we also simultaneously have to just relax. I heard something really beautiful that I have said so many times in much less elegant ways, and the elegant way is this. Only a confused mind is not confused by paradox. And what a wonderful dance of words. Only the confused mind is not confused by paradox. I think the sage might say, I have no idea what's happening here. No idea. And laugh. Well, so this will continue. One metaphor that was provided for me was during this time was when a coil is released, like the Kundalini when it springs forth. When a coil is released, it vacillates so greatly. It's clamped down so tight, and then boom, and then it's like this. And first, like whiplash, but then it just begins to settle down. And now it's easy and it moves with the undulations of life, supple and soft. But boy, when it first releases, it's tumultuous. So this Maya has this great power of forgetting. In addition to our own laziness, in addition to my own laziness, Maya also has a great power of forgetting. Like in the movie Men in Black, they have that light that they shine, I think, Maya's doing this to us all the time. Swami Shivananda says, To awaken into liberation is like walking against the current of the Ganges in monsoon. So we can cut ourselves a little slack. And also don't give up. Is there something you can do to remember? Some way that you can trigger an alert to the somehow that you've forgotten? Some mechanism you can use to come back to the body, to the present moment, fully here. Okay, I can't resist any longer. Hi, Zen. I'm so happy to see you. Hi, Shiloh. So happy to see you, love.
Can I say hi?
Something else to say? Okay.
Nataraj, just there's quite I'm getting quite a lot of feedback.
Oh.
Maybe if you mute want to
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, I'll mute when...
Yeah, that's perfect.
I'll mute when
Thanks.
you talk. Thank you.
Cool, yeah. Yeah, my question is just to sort of pull on that thread a bit. And I really connected when you said, that when you snap back to Maya, the best response is to laugh, which I thought was really helpful because sometimes it feels so serious, like as you say, as you start to touch these kind of indescribable states and then they're gone, and I sort of relate increasingly to some of the writings of these despairing prayers around like, why has my God forsaken me, or that sort of thing, and I think that the laughter point really helps there because because it's sort of I can feel that as true, but I guess if you can just say a little bit more about like you when you're in that state, when you feel totally, when God feels totally inaccessible, when previously he has been totally present, it can be, you can try and laugh, but it also feels really, really kind of difficult. I don't know if you can say anything more about, during those undulations, how to, particularly when you're not feeling connected to, yourself or to God, like, or how do you maintain that sort of sense of lightness through that, I think is the question. Thanks.
Yeah. Cry. Yeah, cry. Have you had that almost manic experience of real, honest sobbing leading to real, honest laughing? So, there's the truth, and then there's the honest experience. And we have to hold both simultaneously. And for most of our experience, they seem to be at odds with each other. They're not in the end, of course, but it feels this way. We have to know the truth, and know what you already know, because you already know it. That you forget it doesn't mean that you don't know it. You understand? Let me just be really basic about this. You have a moment, like a mental lapse, and you forget the name of somebody you know very well. You know their name, you just don't remember it. So you must know what you know and stop pretending to not know it. And what each of you knows is that there is no such thing as not God. And by God, I mean isness, I-ness. Wherever that sense of I-ness comes from, this is what I mean by God. So don't get hung up on the word, please. It's too amateur. So you know it. And so this is the truth. Even when you don't experience it, it doesn't make it not true. You've heard it said, either God is or God isn't. But really, from my standpoint, my understanding of what God is isness. And what is, as fundamental truth, it never isn't. Does this seem too silly a play in words? No, I think probably not for most of you. But I like to say, there was never once anything called wasn'tness. It's never happened. So, and when you come into contact with this isness, this experience of being in it, somehow separate from it, somehow in it, somehow embraced by it, there's no argument, is there? And yet it seems to escape us. So when you have that honest feeling of God has abandoned me, you must know it's not possible. It is literally not possible. And simultaneously to honor the deep pain of this experience. You hold the honest truth in one hand and the truth in the other. I think my favorite quote of all time is by Nisargadatta Maharaj. And he says, wisdom is knowing I'm nothing. Love is knowing I'm everything. And between the two, my life moves. Simultaneous and not in conflict. No longer paradoxical, because the mind is totally confused. But you don't make a problem of this confusion. So know this. Know what you already know. God cannot abandon you. It's not possible. What we do have is the experience of God has abandoned us, or we've abandoned God. I had it. I had it, and I was holding it so preciously in my hand. And then my attention turned away, and I forgot, and I dropped it. Like a child with their teddy bear in the mall, you know? Oh, where did I leave it? It's so painful. And then we start reviewing, don't we? What did I do wrong? It's actually very simple. Just like this child in the mall loves the teddy bears so much. Couldn't fall asleep tonight without it. But there's some cool toy on the shelf. The attention goes. That's it. That's all that happens. That's it. I mean, you could say, if you wanted to make it a little bit more serious and dramatic, God will never turn its back on you. Right? But we're always turning our back on God. And then we say, oh, you've abandoned me. But in this way, in this profound, maybe esoteric way, the moment you turn with sincerity to what you call God, that God is right there always. In your direct experience, honestly. The one who turns with sincerity. The one who turns with deep sincerity and humility, turns to beseeching, let's say. We could say it this way, that God is obliged to you. Obliged. That for the one with a sincere heart, God will show up as friend, father, mother, child, lover. And you see, I mean, it's not a shameful thing. It's not even worth being self-critical about. We just lack sincerity. Isn't it true? We come out of meditation or satsang and criticize somebody driving on the road, right? Whatever it is. Know this. Be gentle in knowing this, but know that the one who is completely sincere will have the direct experience of God. And, and it's not a problem that you lack sincerity. We're not alone in it. But you know how you'll know? Is hear what you speak. Just as a nice little litmus test for us to know, oh, well, okay, so no problem. Right? Self-abuse isn't going to help us develop sincerity. Shame myself into a right relationship with God. I mean, it's such a common misunderstanding. But don't you misunderstand in that way. Not anymore, anyway. Maybe I got carried away a little bit. But we have this experience of, God, where are you? And I'll tell you what, when you learn how to own, how to call from your heart, and that longing to reestablish a closer and closer connection, always closer, this is. Just like they say, a mother knows the difference when a baby's crying for real or with crocodile tears. Really hungry or really hurt, the mother knows. Is it why we all come to satsang? Is it for the direct experience of being in this presence and sharing it with one another? I mean, nobody's taking notes, right? Trust me, there's not anything worth writing down, to be sure, right? But no, why do you come? So, cry. God is surely our mother. Do you understand? And then when you come back into the direct, honest experience of that connection again, laugh. Huh? Huh? Have you had the experience of God laughing with you? Try it and see. Because truly, nothing more is happening than this. Isn't it true? A child's like, oh my God, you disappeared. Okay. Good enough, Johnny, for now? Something to add?
That was beautiful. Thank you.
Love you. Well, Krishna Priya is still crying. Has God shown up for you yet? Isn't it funny? You know, these tears of despair and longing turn into tears of joy, even ecstasy. Has anybody else heard this? I think it's true. I don't know. There are tears of sorrow come from the inside corners of the eyes, and tears of bliss come down the outside out of the outside of the eyes. Have you heard this before? The tears that come when your head is slightly back, and they're sweet to the taste, salty, sweet. I think it might be true. Andrew.
I'm noticing a pattern in my experience when I go deep on this, I don't know, I guess you could call it investigating my relationship with Maya, which is in itself a sort of phenomenon. This pattern of stuckness, where I'll come to this point where I'll be so I'll really feel like this sadness, almost like in being partially awake out of it, and then reflecting on it and on being stuck in illusion and feeling so much sadness, and so much in myself, and also the state of the world, and mankind at least, and then oscillating between that and then seeing that in itself is also Maya, and coming into this bliss, oscillating between the two. And what keeps happening with that is I'll come to that paradox, and my mind will get stuck on this. It'll come into the picture, and it'll get stuck on this, like, well, which is it? It is when I'm feeling that sadness and that ache in my heart that Maya exists, or being completely free from that altogether. The mind gets engaged in this paradox and tries to sort it out, and eventually what ends up happening after just like a minute or two is I'll forget about the whole thing, and I'll notice 5 minutes later that, oh yeah, okay, that paradox thing, I totally forgot about that. But I keep coming to this place where it's like the mind gets engaged, and I really don't know how to skillfully be with that.
Yes. Like this. Because you've already seen it. You've already seen it from the place that just, right? And like I was saying before, we mustn't pretend not to know what we know. There's nothing wrong with the experience of a broken heart. In a way, you could say that the experience of bliss is a constant heartbreaking. Or at least the bliss isn't diminished by it. There's so many stories of jnanis crying for the world, for the suffering in the world. So, there's a story of Swami Vishnudevananda told of some abuse of a child and just wept and wept and wept, sobbing. You'll come to a place in your direct experience, your honest experience, where the whole thing, all of the dramas, in the movement of the emotions as a limited I and as a less limited we, also I, that all of this happens in the container of bliss, which is more primarily the I that you are. The experience is layered. And when I say you just do this, because when the mind is giving you a choice to make about this or that, it's a con. And you know it's a con. Because it's the mind that is binary, that is dual, this or that, subject and object, good and bad. You're far enough along now to simply discard it. And it doesn't mean discarding the emotions that come. Why would you? Who actually has a problem with an incredible, profound sadness for the suffering in the world, or even somebody that you love in a special way? Who's resisting this? Who's judging it as not awake? It isn't evidence of anything other than being in the world. Where else are you going to be, at least for now? But whether you are experiencing it or not, the absolute truth of it is that your bliss is never ending, and it's uninterrupted by, not even hued or colored by, the experiences of a different layer of self, processing or allowing emotions to flow through the body-mind. It's not a problem. The truth is, in strict Advaita, the Jnani rejects nothing. Rejection is aversion. Aversion is suffering. There is nothing for you to reject, especially not anything that lingers in what your experience of I-ness is. And when we wrestle with this as a form of conflict or rejection, not this, it gives it a longer life. When you come to the point where you're like, oh, now there's a tremendous sadness, and you cry, and it comes and then it goes. Sometimes in a matter of minutes. But the mind will always do this. It will always say either this or that. You see? And the one who doesn't make this distinction by the standards of the world is crazy. And the world can't understand one who wouldn't engage in debate about this or that. I will tell you this, that what is unconditional love doesn't require you to be any particular way. I heard something really wonderful this morning. It was the same one. And it was I think it was a Sufi quote. And it says, Lord, there are two ways that I can come to you. One is through a total perfection of my being, of being perfect. The other is to surrender completely. What is God rejects nothing of you, doesn't keep you at bay until you've purified. You see, we confuse unworthy with shame. They're not the same. No one's worthy. You know it. If you've ever tasted this love, this divinity, you know there's no possible way you could be worthy of it. Am I right? Well, anyway, this is my experience. There's no shame in it either. There's just an incredible humility and gratitude. It's true, I am not worthy. But this isn't a shameful experience of me, and I offer no apology. What choice do I have other than to offer myself exactly as I am? Do you think I can pretend to be different and somehow dupe God into being worthy? No. Do I think I can hide from this isness, this cosmic heart, this God, behind a fig leaf? conceal some part of me, thinking it remains unseen. One of my favorite prayers is, Lord, I want that you have all of me, good and bad. In fact, Krishna Priya wrote this really incredible song as a kirtan. Maybe there's a recording and we can send it to the group. So, we are as we are. How could we be otherwise? It's absurd. And this is not a program of self-improvement. It isn't. I think many years of effort towards self-improvement is necessary, fundamentally necessary, to just come to the point and realize it's not possible. This is a quote, I think, attributed to Einstein. How does it go? You cannot solve a problem with the same consciousness with which it was created. Yes. Self-improvement. I mean, we can develop all kinds of strategies. We can fool each other sometimes, not for long usually, right? We can develop really wonderful strategies to con each other. But even that doesn't work after a time, doesn't it? You know? But there's no hiding from the superconscious, you see, because it's superconscious. And anyway, it's your own self. How funny are we that we even try to hide from our own selves? Tell ourselves so many stories in our mind that just are so not true. There's no shame in flaws and mistakes. A loving, mature father never scolds his child for a sincere effort. Notice I say loving and mature. You know, the truth is, the closer we come to what we might call light, the more of the vast darkness in us becomes apparent. This awakening business is not very pleasant always, is it? We come to know so much about ourselves. And truly, the one who has come to know themselves in the fullness of their being, all of the things that we might call horrible and offensive, and all the things that are endearing and lovable, the one who has come to see it in themselves could never, ever cast judgment against another. Ever. It's not possible. Seeing deep into our own darkness. How could we possibly cast judgment on somebody else? And there is no corner of your being. There's no corner of your being that this isness, this super consciousness isn't aware of, isn't there peering in, non-judgmentally. And the hiding is Well, it's the same as we were talking about before. If I can't see you, you can't see me. Do you dare? Truly, do you dare to be as you are and get it wrong? So, when the mind offers you a choice of this or that, you just, because you know. Might as well be selling you Rolexes on Canal Street in New York. It's not the real thing. Tell me.
So there can be bliss in the middle of the tears.
There is. It's already there. There's an aspect of you that's experiencing it, and it's just about coming into a recognition, awareness of that. Yeah. I know it seems like a fine point, but it's an important fine point.
No, I understand. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. And from our own experience, we can see this. Here, over the weekend, in a group of people, some you know, some you don't know, some you like, some you don't like, some who you like that don't like you back. You get it, right? And when you face each one, something different arises in you. And when you're facing one and thinking about another, they're simultaneous. If it's true that we are one, and we are many, which one are you? Look. Not as a rhetoric, it's like, look, if we're one and we are many, who are you? If we are one, who are you? If we are many, who are you not? I think it's called, in the Catholic Mass, I think it's called the Profession of Faith. And it says, one in being with the Father. And if here Father means one, all, maybe as the Hindu god Brahman or Ishwara, which 10,000 eyes. The light that looks through every what would you call it? Sphere. So, to be one in being with this, who are you not? Or as the aspect of Father, which one is not your child? Which of us children don't belong to that? Do you see? It's right there. I spent some time, some years ago, my own looking, not as a theologian, God help me, never as that, but looking from my own experience and leaning into the parable of the prodigal son. You see, because when he comes home, he's welcomed and a feast to welcome him home. There's no accounting of his misdeeds, of his foolishness, of having squandered his inheritance and rolling around in the mud with the pigs, I think is how it goes. And I think the story goes that his siblings are jealous. We've been here the whole time, and he gets a party. Huh? You see, this is the God that shows up to us when we're at the end of our karma, when we're at the end of judging our own selves, of running our own show. Huh? This is the end of the God that is making a list of who's naughty and nice. Huh? Huh? There is this aspect also. But in full surrender, it's all done. It's all forgiven, you could say. It's not quite right, actually, because it's not actually forgiven. It was never not forgiven. But somehow there is a receiving the forgiveness, that it was always there. And so it's an honest part of the experience. But on the other side of having received it, you see, there was never any judgment. In fact, truly, I'm sure this is a blasphemy in so many circles, you are the only judge. God has never once judged you. Not possible. You are the only judge. And what is called the last judgment is the last time that you issue a judgment. This is the last judgment. And in this, you will experience an ecstasy. A shift in how you perceive, how you are. A reversal. You are your only judge. Ultimately, for each of us, there comes a time in a fine analysis of all of our efforts It will just make sense. There's nothing left to do but to surrender. I've tried everything else. Huh? And I paid very close attention, and nothing has worked. Yeah. It's so sad, actually, because at this intersection, many people get to this and not understanding and being misled and having been misled, they think suicide is the answer. No, it's a grave mistake, actually. I mean, it means you get to come back and do it all again, a little harder, like that. You know, but this really is, I mean, maybe in Shakespeare it was a childish romance, but this question of to be or not to be and on whose terms is a really serious question. Who do I belong to? Yeah. Is it okay when I speak like this? Huh? Yeah? It's not too much? So, no objections. And we're out of time. No, you know what's next. Thank you. I love you. Truly, thank you, thank you. Love you. You know, it's a good idea. Anytime you feel the presence, open your throat, tilt your chin up just a little bit, and drink.